That evening, I went to see Lucas Larson with our wedding invitations from 5 years ago, an engagement ring we'd exchanged at our engagement party. Let's call off the engagement. My voice was completely devoid of emotion. Lucas's beautiful eyes studied me for a long while. Then, he leisurely leaned back on the sofa, looking at me through narrowed eyes. Sophie Tucker, what kind of joke is this? I shook my head. I'm serious. As if to emphasize that this was a well-thought-out decision, I added, I've been thinking about this for years. The last rays of sunset streaming through the window cast shadows across the sofa, making Lucas's expression appear even darker. After a long moment, he nodded and stood up, saying dismissively, whatever. I'm busy. Take your ring with you. Without a word, I walked past him into the study and saw the aged wedding invitation. I picked up the ring we'd exchanged, took a deep breath, and slowly stood up. Lucas and I had been together for 10 years. We were supposed to get married 5 years ago, but after Holly Rubin appeared, our wedding date kept getting pushed back. During these 5 years, I'd wanted to end this relationship countless times, only to regret it just as often. But not this time. From today onward, Lucas and I would have nothing to do with each other. Walking out of the study, I was surprised to see Lucas still there. I thought he'd left. He stood silently in the living room, as if waiting for me. I walked past, trying to ignore him and leave, but Lucas blocked my path, frowning. Sophie, if this is about today, you've got it all wrong. I kept my head down as I listened to his self-righteous tone. Was I really wrong? This morning, he'd promised Holly he'd be her sole protector. Last time, he'd used his influence to pressure everyone on behalf of Holly, taking away my opportunity to perform. The time before that, he'd kissed Holly right in front of me just to win a game. Were all of these misunderstandings? For the first time, I didn't respond to Lucas's condescending attempt at reconciliation. All these years, I'd always been the one to compromise to make peace. During every argument, I'd come running back at his slightest gesture. But never again. We were done. The next day at dance practice, I ran into Holly backstage. She was chatting with the new junior dancers, her posture radiating elegance. When Holly saw me passing by, she reached out to block my path, her expression challenging. In the past, I would have followed Lucas's wishes. I would have yielded to her, politely said hello, or taken another route. But now I slapped her slender arm away. Holly seemed shocked by my action. Wincing in pain, she pulled back her arm, then stormed over and shoved me hard, snapping, Sophie, have you lost your mind? Do you know who you're dealing with? I steadied myself, my expression calm. I do. The Larson family's precious daughter, our dance company's darling. 5 years ago, Lucas had met Holly when she was visiting the orphanage where he was doing charity work. Because his company needed good publicity at the time, Lucas had immediately adopted her as his sister and brought her home. What started as a publicity move somehow turned into Lucas's unconditional devotion to her. And then came the constant postponements of our wedding. Holly's affairs became Lucas's top priority. The first time Lucas stood me up for Holly was on my birthday. The family driver had secretly told me Lucas was planning to propose that day. Lucas wasn't exactly the romantic type. I didn't want my life's next chapter to begin in some unremarkable setting, so I reserved the best table at the Sunset restaurant. I sat in the center of that beautifully romantic restaurant, surrounded by flowers and applause, using my dinner knife to cut into an exquisite little cake. A ring appeared, gleaming in the sweet-scented air. I was overjoyed, but the next moment Holly showed up. Brother, I think I have a fever. The moment he saw Holly, Lucas stopped his proposal mid-motion and walked toward her. My smile vanished. The "what are you doing?" on my lips met his cold stare and turned into, "Should we take her to the hospital together?" He frowned, staring at the ring as if deep in thought, then said coldly, "Sophie, be understanding. Holly's still young. What if her fever leads to complications? Perhaps women's intuition is especially keen." That day, watching him leave with Holly under his protective arm, I suddenly realized Lucas didn't belong to me. But even the strongest intuition couldn't overcome falling for him again and again, repeatedly falling in love, repeatedly walking through fire for love. How many times had Lucas stood me up for Holly? So many times I've lost count. Just then, Holly's sharp voice cut through the entire floor. You know all this and you still dare to. I snapped back to the present and calmly interrupted her. How is any of this your business? Before, not only did Lucas protect her, but he made me yield to her too. My unconditional compliance had only fueled Holly's arrogance. More than once, she'd stolen my performance opportunities, my dance costumes, my instructors, and even my fiancé. I no longer wanted to dwell on what she'd taken before, and I no longer wanted to give way to her. Lucas and I have ended our engagement. She stared at me as if she hadn't understood, dumbfounded. What? In her eyes I saw disbelief, and a hint of barely concealed joy. After all, Lucas was wealthy and powerful, handsome, owned a public company, and had limitless potential. Who would be foolish enough to leave him? But I was willing to trade that foolishness for genuine love. I didn't respond. My continued silence and composure spoke volumes to Holly. Seeing I wasn't joking, her face lit up with joy. Really? You really left him? Unaffected by the delight in her eyes, I looked at her steadily and spoke again calmly. Yes, it's over between us. As for you, you don't have to just call him brother anymore. The moment I finished speaking, Holly quickly threw her dance clothes to a junior dancer nearby and rushed off. I knew she was going to find Lucas. The junior dancers looked at me nervously. Senior, are you okay? I shook my head, forcing my lips into a smile. I'm fine. I spent the entire morning practicing in the quiet studio. When I finally made my way backstage, panting and drenched in sweat, a friendly girl from the next table came over and handed me a bottle of water. I took it gratefully, thanking her, and noticed she was mumbling something while scrolling through her phone. Holly's dating someone. He looks kind of familiar. I froze, instinctively pulling out my phone to check Holly's Instagram. She'd posted a photo of herself holding hands with Lucas at the orphanage. The caption read, "After all these years, we're finally walking side by side." Posted at 12:07 December 7th, the day they first met. I pressed my lips together, the sweat on my forehead no longer bothering me. The photo of Lucas dressed as Santa at my birthday party still sat prominently on my desk. Without hesitation, I took apart the frame, walked to the shredder, and fed the photo in. The machine slowly turned the photo into confetti, gone without a trace. I returned to my seat and took a long drink of water. By evening, I was dragging my exhausted body out of the dance studio. My phone rang with a familiar tone. I hesitated for 30 seconds before pulling it from my pocket. A wave of disappointment and hurt washed over me. Sophie, when did you and Lucas? Mom, we called off the engagement. I cut her off. After hearing my explanation, Mom said, "What are you thinking? You're almost 30. And you dare to break off an engagement? Who's going to marry you now? Besides, this marriage was arranged between me and Sarah Larson. Even though she has Alzheimer's now, we can't go back on our promise. You need to explain this to her yourself." I hung up and walked alone down the street. The city was alive with lights from countless windows, but not one of them shone for me. I thought I would always be alone. My phone rang again. I glanced at it and answered, "Hello, Miss Parker." Her voice came through. "There's an advanced program at the Royal Ballet School in London. If you refuse again, Holly will take the spot." "I'll go. Don't worry, Miss Parker. From now on, I won't give up any more opportunities the company offers me." She went on about how glad she was that I'd finally come to my senses. I smiled bitterly. It wasn't about coming to my senses. I just finally understood that what's mine shouldn't be given away, and what isn't mine, I shouldn't force to keep. The next day, I took time off planning to sleep in. But early in the morning, I was jolted awake by my phone. Lucas's cold voice cut through the line. "Have you lost your mind? You actually told the family about breaking off the engagement? Sophie, you're 30. You're not some young girl in her 20s like Holly. Can't you think things through before acting?" His shouting cleared the fog from my drowsy mind. "Lucas, you're in love with Holly, aren't you?" There was a long silence on the other end. After what felt like forever, he spoke as if he'd made some decision. "Sophie, I only love Holly like a sister. You and I are the ones who should be getting married." Staring at the ceiling, I suddenly realized how cowardly this man I'd loved for 10 years really was. "Lucas, The first time you abandoned me for Holly was on my birthday. That day, you were determined to marry me, and just as determined to leave me for her. The second time you disregarded my feelings for Holly was at the dance company party. You drank in her place and kissed her to help her win that game, telling me it was just part of the game. The third time you chose Holly over me, you knew performing on stage was my dream. You knew that opportunity was mine, but you still used your position as an investor to steal it for Holly. With each example I listed, my eyes grew more tearful. Lucas, you love her and you've betrayed me. Do I need to go on? The line went dead with a click. Lucas couldn't even manage a single apology. What a coward he truly was. Not long after that call, Lucas left town. He went to Hereford for a business deal, with Holly tagging along. I tried not to keep tabs on him, but Holly kept flooding social media with updates. Fed up, I finally blocked her. My life narrowed down to just the dance studio and home. Before, I used to squeeze time out of my busy schedule to prepare Lucas's lunch. I'd cook, pack it up, and trek all the way to his office, only to hear him say Holly's takeout tasted better. Now all that saved time meant I could finally get proper rest. No more dozing off at the studio. No more choking down bitter espressos. No more catching naps on hard benches. A week later, Lucas returned. He appeared at the studio entrance in a black checkered coat, cutting a striking figure with his hands in his pockets, blocking my path. Sophie, let's talk. Lucas took me to Sunset Restaurant, where he'd once proposed. Same center table, complete with flowers, applause, and a cellist playing softly, the atmosphere elegant and serene. He passed me a slice of cake, his voice husky. I've thought seriously about what you said that day. I can change. From now on, I'll be on your side. I put a bite of cake in my mouth, saying nothing. I know I confused family with romance, sister with fiancé. I'll change, Sophie. Can you give me one more chance? Truth be told, my heart wasn't completely unmoved. So when I met his earnest gaze and saw the diamond ring nestled in the cake, I felt that familiar flutter. Slowly I said, okay. Lucas's tense expression instantly relaxed. But just as he was about to slip the ring on my finger, a familiar ringtone cut through the air. Lucas instinctively glanced at me, then slowly angled his phone away, dimming the screen. Small gestures I caught perfectly. The caller's identity was obvious. I knew that ringtone, it was Holly's special one. Lucas shot me a guilty look. I lowered my head and spat out the cake. He always used to give me that same guilty look when taking Holly's calls in front of me. I pretend to be understanding, tell him it was fine. Lucas had grown comfortable treading that line, enabled by my tolerance. And here he was doing it again. I should take this, Sophie. Holly wouldn't call unless it was something serious. I neither agreed nor objected. Holly's voice came through. Brother, I'm so dizzy. Someone kept making me drink at the bar. What should I do? I'm scared. I saw the urgency flash across Lucas's face. Sure enough, he spoke into the phone. Don't worry, I'll be right there. After hanging up, Lucas tried to use promises to prove his earlier words were genuine, that he'd follow through. He said, Sophie, don't worry, this is the last time I'll help her. After this, I'll make everything clear with her. I didn't look at him, just stared at the large diamond ring. In the distance, the restaurant's evening show was beginning. Fireworks suddenly burst across the night sky. Every couple in the restaurant shared brighter smiles. Except me sitting alone. Whether it was the proposal 5 years ago, or tonight's reconciliation attempt, I always ended up abandoned here. My phone buzzed with a message. Opening it, I could practically see Holly's smug, triumphant expression between the lines. Sophie, he chose me again. The video she sent showed Lucas shielding her, fighting the men who had pressured her to drink. I remembered what Holly had told me when leaving the studio that afternoon. He'll apologize to you tonight, but don't worry, he'll still take my side. He'll always choose me. I won't lie, when Lucas apologized earlier, my resolve had wavered. I'd thought that if he could really change, I'd give him one last chance. But sadly, he couldn't even do that. 2 days later, I went to apply for my international visa. After finishing the paperwork, I took the ring to visit Aunt Larson at the nursing home. I'd been there several times. During my previous visits, she hadn't been lucid enough to recognize me. Fortunately this time, Her mind was clear, and she called me Little Sophie. I told her about recent events and why I'd come. Aunt Larson held the ring, staying silent for a long while. She looked up with sadness in her eyes. When you were children, you were always together. Lucas would tell me he wanted to marry you when he grew up. Later, he begged me to arrange the marriage with your mother. I thought your love would blossom and bear fruit. But instead, it wasted so many years of your life. I'm so sorry, dear. Lucas has wronged you too. My eyes welled up with tears as I shook my head. Lucas taught me what love feels like, and also that you can't force someone to love you. Aunt Larson, this is my choice. She tore up the wedding invitation, handed the ring back to me and said, Sophie, I wish you all the happiness in the world. About 2 weeks later, I successfully got my visa. I boarded my flight to Italy. I was still wearing the engagement ring. As the cabin door closed, I couldn't resist raising my phone to capture the sunset. Aiming my camera at the window, I caught sight of an impossible figure. Lucas. The next moment, the flight attendant announced there were weather changes and asked us to return to the waiting area. The passengers looked at the perfectly clear sky, unable to hold back their complaints and questions. You're saying we can't fly in this weather? Are you serious? Is there a mistake with your instruments? I timed this perfectly to meet my wife. Just my luck. Carrying my backpack, I followed the flight attendant toward Lucas. His usually composed face showed a rare hint of panic as he wrapped his arms around me and spoke softly. Why didn't you tell me you were going to Italy for advanced training? I pushed him away and glanced at the confused passengers watching us, my expression blank. You shouldn't be here. Lucas grabbed my hand and pressed the ring from that night into my palm. Sophie, I'm here to marry you. Let's go get married right now, okay?